Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a website, head over to squarespace.com/Paul Messner. So in this video, I'm going to be having a go at installing this Chinese diesel heater. So anyone with a camper van has got one of these diesel heaters nowadays. You can get expensive versions of these, such as Webasto's. They're about 700 quid though, but this was under £80. And from the reviews that I've seen, these are excellent value for money. But when it comes to fitting it, I've seen that many different videos. Everybody does it differently, so I'm going to have a go and show you my way of fitting it. So I've had a check in the box. Comes with loads of different bits and pieces. There's an electronic control panel that alters the fan speed on and off. We've got some kind of little remote control keyring as well, so we should be able to kick the heat out without getting out of bed. So these heaters run on diesel fuel, so there's two ways of plumbing the diesel in. You can either use this is a 10 litre tank that comes with the kit, or you can plumb it directly into your own van diesel tank. I'm going to be using this and stick it under one of these cupboards somewhere. So I'll quickly show you some of the components that you get in the kit. So you get the diesel heater itself. There's a plate that connects to your floor. Through there goes your air inlet pipe with a filter, and then you've got your exhaust, which also goes out from the bottom of your van. This is where your hot air comes out, of your cupboard face. What else have we got? So we've got some ducting for that. We have got the fuel pump. Apparently this ticks a little bit, but I'll try and reduce the ticking by mounting it in a certain way that I've seen. We've got a complete wiring loom. Everything just clips in, so it should be very straightforward to install that. Fuel pipe. So there's two different types that I've seen. There's a thin white one like this, which is apparently better than the green version from all the reports that I've seen. So I went for this particular version. 10 litre fuel canister. So there's two types of these as well that I've seen. Some that have got the spout which comes straight out the top. I went for one that came out of an angle in case I mount that out the back there. And then you've got your control panels and instructions. Apparently the instructions are not the easiest to go by. So on the bottom of the heater there's a thick rubber gasket, so that makes sure that everything is nicely sealed. This is the air intake, which is next to the fuel intake pipe, and this one is for your exhaust. So these actually have to go through holes in the bottom of your van. So somewhere down here, hopefully, I'm going to be drilling into the van floor so we can get this fitted. So this is the face plate which goes on over here like this. If we can get it on. There we go. So when you're drilling holes in the floor, you've got to make sure that these are all very accurate, and each of these has their own separate hole normally. However, I've paid a little bit extra, so this was about £20. This is called a turret, and this means that I can drill one big hole, which is 127 centimetres in diameter. This can go over the top there. Hopefully. Looks like I'm going to have to drill these holes out just a little bit bigger. But then that means that I've not got to worry about the floor insulation and things like that. So I've got this deep enough so I can drill through my floor top, my insulation underneath, and the van, and then this will give me clearance to the outside underneath. So the first job that I'm going to do is I'm going to make these holes a little bit bigger, so they fit over my diesel heater. It fits nicely now. I'll just clean these up a little bit and then put some hammerite paint on it. So next job for me is to drill the hole through the floor to get this installed. So this is ideally where we'd like to install it, but I need to make sure that when I drill the holes through here, that I'm not hitting anything structural underneath the van. So I've got to roughly measure here. I think we're going to come through just there. Alright, so this is where we want it to go. So just to be careful, we're going to start off with just a little pilot hole. So hopefully that's gone through the floor. I've shone the torch through and we've got a little hole there, so yeah, I think we can get our thing there. I might actually move it that way a centimetre just so we're more in this space here. Time for the big hole. So we're through the insulation and the battening. We're getting there. It's only because there's a few ridges that it's making it a little bit more difficult, but once we've got through the tops, it should be fine. So I keep dabbing a little bit of oil around the edge of the blade. That's making cutting quite a bit easier. That's it. We are through. Not turning back now. Just need to file these metal edges and then cover them up a bit with paint. Get a bit of hammerite on here. Right, so I'm going to start and assemble things on the heater. The turret plate goes on, so that'll be held in place when I screw the nuts on top of the bolts. So just for the record, you don't need the turret plate. You can just use this, but then you probably have to cut more of your flooring out and then have this secured to the metal van floor. So the next job I'm going to do is fit the air intake and the exhaust onto these two here. So you can see the fuel inlet pipe here. So the exhaust is furthest away. So this one is the exhaust and this one is the air intake. So I'm going to fit this on here and then screw it down with a Jubilee clip. So the heater's going to be situated like this in the van. So we want the exhaust heading towards the back of the van. So that's why we've got it bent that way. So most people tend to fit their silencer horizontally like this, but you should actually fit it that way. So as you may be able to see there's a little hole in the bottom, and that is to allow moisture to release so you don't get any water in your exhaust system. So next up I'm going to be fitting the air intake. So there is some kind of filter here. This just pops into this flexible hose, secured with another Jubilee clip, and again that goes underneath the van and it points towards the rear of the van as well. So the air intake fits on here, and again that's just held on with another Jubilee clip. So next up we're going to think about the fuel pipe. So they come with 2 or 3 meters of this thin fuel pipe, and then there's about a foot of this little rubber hose. So when you do your connections, the fuel pipe fits inside there, and then this goes over your metal connections. So I need to cut a section of this tubing off about 1.5 to 2 inches, and this will fit over this fuel intake, and then the white fuel pipe will fit inside there. So the fuel pipe is just held on with these little sort of brass constrictor clips. So you have to push these quite hard actually, and then that should clamp it on. Fat fingers are going to get in the way here. So that's the rubber hose on. Put one of those clips in. Pro tip from someone who's not a pro. I've got some needle nose pliers. That makes this so much easier. There we go. So now the thin white fuel pipe is pushing into there. And I'm going to hold that in place, use another one of these clips. So that's everything done on this part now. So before we can drop the heater in place, I need to drill another small hole here for the fuel pipe to come back through. So we're going to put a little bit of paint from underneath, and then I'll put a grommet on there as well. So this little rubber grommet will stop the metalwork wearing through the fuel pipe. Alright, let's get this fitted, and then I'll feed the fuel pipe back through. I'm not sure how well you can see that. I'm just feeding the fuel pipe back through the hole where the grommet is. Now we have diesel heater in, not fully secured yet, but the fuel pipe is coming back into the van. So next up, I'm going to set the tank up. A big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring the video today. I've been using Squarespace almost daily now for 2 years. It's been the perfect platform to allow me to launch my own online shop. But you don't need to have an online shop. If you're just a blogger or want to upload and share your photos, then there's a Squarespace template that makes it really easy to do. So if you want to have a go at making a website of your own, head over to squarespace.com/Paul Messner. You'll get a totally free trial, or click the link in the description below. So this is a 10-litre tank. Somewhere inside you get a little fitting kit. So that's where you attach your fuel pipe to. There's some little gaskets in there. We'll get that set up now. So you can buy kits that plumb directly into your van's diesel tank, but I didn't want to do that. And so we plumbed for one of the kits that have got an included 10-litre tank with it. So these tanks have got little areas where you can drill a hole to get the hose connected. So if you want to fit it that way, you'd use the one on the bottom. But if you wanted this towards the back of your van, then you would use the one that's underneath here. So I've already measured up the pipe work, and we need a 7.5mm drill. Use that as a pilot hole. Take out all the plastic bits. Right, so the next tricky bit is to get this connection pipe into the hole from the inside. You need to have this little rubber washer on as well. So to do that, I'm going to get a piece of electrical cable, try and feed it through. Come out the other end like that. And I'm just going to take this onto the end, see if I can pull it through. That's the plan anyway. There we go. With a 7.5mm drill that actually screws in, so it's not falling out again. So then another washer, rubber washer, so this should give you a really good seal. And then put the nut on. And that is what it looks like from the inside. Right, so next is a little bit more pipe work. So from here we want a little bit more of that black rubber tubing, some more of the fuel pipe, and then we're going to put the fuel filter in. Right, to make this a little bit easier, I've put all these in some boiling water so I don't burn my little pinkies. I'll use the pliers. So hopefully these go on a bit easier. Secure it in place again with one of these clips. I'll put the rubber connectors on the filter and the pump as well while the water's hot. That's the fuel filter done, and the diesel pump. So I've cut a small section of the fuel pipe off. I'm going to connect that to here, and then we're going to go to the fuel filter. There's nothing that I've seen in the instructions, but from what I've researched, that's the direction of the fuel filter, so that goes on here towards your pump. So apologies if this video is a little bit long-winded, but I've not seen any out there that go really into detail on how to fit these. So I thought if I did a little bit, some people might find it helpful. So now I'm going to hook up the fuel dosage pump. I was kind of hoping there'd be some kind of directional arrow on here, but from my own research, you know, where the black connection is goes towards your heater from your tank. So I'm going to be fitting that somewhere down here, and then there'll be a face plate across there to cover that. Cold fingers, need a heater. So I'll just grip it with these a little bit. That means I can push it in a little bit further. So that's buttered right up to the metal connection part in there. Right, so I'm just going to put the pump in its little rubber holder. So that should help with the sound deadening. But I think I'm not going to mount it like that. I think I'm going to have it, well, you have to have it on an angle. I'm going to have it suspended so it's not quite as noisy. I'm just going to temporarily put this here just to test it really. So I need to prop the tank up before we test it out. So we just need to wire up the electrics, then we can get some fuel in the tank and see if it works. So this is the wiring loom. It's got 3 different connectors, so all the connection bits should be really straightforward. So this big white one connects directly to the heater itself. It only goes in one way. So that's really straightforward. So next up we've got these 2 connectors. So there is one for the control unit, which is a triangular shaped one. That just clips in there. And your final connector, this fits onto your dosage pump. Now to get this to fit, you have to press this little silver clip in. And then when you click it, it'll let you push it forward. Last up is connect it over there into the fuse box. So I've crimped a couple of connections onto the live and the negative from the wiring loom. Just need to run a bit of this cable around the back and then into the fuse box and connect everything up. So I've crimped a couple of these little ring terminals on. Going to now connect it to the fuse box. Going to rig this up with a 20 amp fuse. Wish me luck. That's a positive start anyway. The controls work. So I'm going to temporarily rig up the fuel tank. Not quite sure where it's going to go yet. Get a bit of diesel in it, shall we? That's a good sign, no obvious leaks. So before I prime the heater, I'll quickly walk through what I've done so far. So we've got the fuel tank at the back there, and then down at the bottom the fuel pipe is running through a fuel filter. And that is going through the pump, which I've got at about 30 degrees, and then that's gone through a hole in the van and then back up into the diesel heater. We've connected the wiring loom, which goes to the controller. We've got one connection to the pump. I've connected the negative and the live through 2 cables into the fuse box, and now we're ready to go. For the first time only, when you use the heater, you have to prime the fuel system first. So to do that, you press OK and down at the same time. H will say off, and if you press up, that will start the pump. Told you it was a bit noisy, didn't I? So we need to sort that out so it doesn't make a noise. So you need to prime it until you've got fuel transferred all the way up to the heater itself. Not sure if the camera's picking that up, but the fuel's travelling along the pipe, which is good news. So the system is all primed, so to turn it on, I think all I need to do is Press this button once. We have noise. So I think what it does first is it starts the fan up. This comes in so many stages. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it has like a cycling up period and a cycling down period. So that means that the fan will kick in and blow cold air for a bit when you start it up, and cold air when you shut it down. Apparently that's there to protect the system. So at the moment the fan's just going, we've got no hot air, so fingers crossed in a minute things warm up. So the pump's kicked in, so the little symbols come on there and it's making a little bit of a noise. You can see it vibrating. So hopefully hot air should come out soon. Right, so the fan's kicked in. Well, it's almost, we can see these creeping up, so it's on third lot of power. Starting to get some hot air out, which is awesome. See if I can turn it down a little bit. I've not worked out how to change that hertz temperature yet, but that's really warm now. The fan's actually slowed down a bit. Don't know if that's because I've turned the hertz thing down. But we have a nice warm van. Happy days. So the little remote works as well. Right, so I've worked out how to change these hertz to your temperature. So what we need to do first is get to the time, which is wrong incidentally. Click OK, you'll get the current temperature, which is 9 degrees Celsius. Click OK again, and that's what your settings at, which is in hertz. But if you press the settings button and up, which is these top two buttons, at the same time, it will change that hertz to degrees Celsius. So then you can just move up and down with your controller to set your temperature. The higher that you have it, the higher that your fan will kick in. So I'll turn it off, see how long it takes to power down. Try using the remote to switch it off. And it says off. So it should switch the heat off and the pump, and then just blow cool air for a bit. So it took a few minutes just to cool itself and power down. There's no heat on that at all. So all I need to do now is tidy up all this wiring, put the pump in its correct location, same with the tank, and then when we get a front on this cabinet here, the ducting will go here. So it's been a week or so since I've done anything with the heater, but we have been out in the van and give it a little test run, and we used the heater all weekend and it worked perfectly fine. Not made a great deal of progress. Some of the wiring's been tidied up a little bit. There's a temporary fix for that. I'll just show you where I've fixed the exhaust and the air intake underneath the van. So I did have to put a little bracket on here, but they're just hose clamped onto the bottom of the van. So I have fitted a better quality fuel tank, which has a standpipe, so there's definitely not going to be any leaks. But I'll show you little bits and bobs like that when we do the full van tour. I'm not sure we've got enough cushions in here, Joe. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next time.